Hi there, and welcome to the deep dive on managing recurring income in Donorfy. We're going to talk through today how to manage all of your recurring income. So standing orders, go cardless, direct debits, CAF, everything like that. First of all, we're going to talk through some concepts. So in Donorfy, we call recurring payments we record recurring payments using a recurring payment instruction, or an RPI. So we're going to talk through what that is. Then we're going to discuss how to add and manage recurring payments. We'll go through some examples, so go cardless, standing orders, CAF, also other recurring payments as well. We'll also talk about how to configure RPIs and then report on your RPIs as well. Finally, we'll talk through some tips and FAQs from the Donorfy support team, and then we'll have some time for questions at the end. So first of all, what is an RPI? So an RPI in Donorfy stands for Recurring Payment Instructions, and it can be used to manage a number of different things. So your membership, standing orders, direct debits, recurring card payments, and they could be received monthly, annually, quarterly, or biannually. They can be processed by any provider, so we integrate with Go Cardless, but also you could be using CAF, you could have standing orders through your bank, you could have other means where you're processing recurring payments as well. But the recurring payment allows you to tell Donorfy that you're expecting money to come into your account on a regular basis. So how do we reconcile recurring payments? So the easy way, which we'll talk through first, is to use the integrations with Go Cardless and Stripe. And this is an automated way of being able to record that you have recurring payments and also record the transactions as they come in on a regular basis. The more manual way, if you're using other means or to do it in bulk, is to use a RPI along with the EFT feature in Donorfy, which is an expected funds transfer, and then create batches. Just to mention that these features are something which are available in the professional version of Donorfy only. The integrations with Stripe and Go Cardless are available in the free version, but the ability to reconcile payments through other means is only available in the professional version of Donorfy. So let's talk through adding and managing RPIs first. So what can you do with an individual RPI on the record? So we can add a new one if somebody sets one up. We can also manage it by upgrading it or cancel it. We can also pause it as well. So let's head into Donorfy now and have a look at a record. And say I wanted to add a new recurring payment instruction onto somebody's record. I can go to add recurring payment instruction and I can set some different things around it. So we can have different types of recurring payment instructions, so whether they're memberships or just a recurring donation. Can have the frequency, when it's starting, also the collection method. So when you first set up your Donorfy, and as standard in any of your Donorfy accounts, you will have Go Cardless, Standing Order and Stripe. But if you are using other means, then you might want to add different collection methods to Donorfy, but we'll run through that later on in the session. So you'll choose the collection method. In this case, it might be a standing order. You can say the collection date, where it's going, into which account. The reference number is really important. I'll talk through that in a little bit more detail later, but it will essentially allow you to reconcile your payments. So it means that as soon as your payments are being received, we know it's connected to this recurring payment instruction. I can add any comments, also an acknowledgement. So we want to acknowledge that they've signed up to a standing order or direct debit. So you can create templates for that under Settings, Configuration, and then go to Documents, where you can create templated letters and emails that can be sent out as soon as somebody sets up any recurring payment. I can also add a campaign, say how much it is for, so if it was £5, when we're going to start collecting, if it's an open-ended or if it's going to end after a certain amount of time. You can also allocate it to different funds like you can with any other transaction in Donorfy, link it to other people if you want to. There's lots of different things that you can do with the recurring payment instruction. So once I save those changes, that will then appear as a new RPI on the constituents record. Then, if I needed to delete it, upgrade it, so if they change their campaign, cancel it, pause it, or reassign it, I can do that here. Or if I don't want to upgrade it, it is just as easy to change the payment amounts on here if they notify you that they change their amounts or something like that. Again, with Stripe and Go Cardless, these will be getting added for you. So there's nothing that you need to do as part of the integrations with Donorfy, as long as you're using a Donorfy form, and we'll talk through some of that later. But any other way that recurring payments are added, it will happen there. The other thing that you might want to do is to thank them, and then also use triggers as well. So when we've created an RPI, it will come into the acknowledgements queue, which you can find under financial on the left hand side, and I can see RPIs that need to be thanked by email, but also ones that need to be thanked by letter. So this is a template that I've used, but I might want to personalize that before it gets sent out. Then I can create a download file, which I can then use to send those letters out, and it will mark on their record that the thank you letter for that standing order has been received. But also there might be something that needs to be thanked by email, so they will come into this queue as well. So you can check that as often as you like to be able to send out those thank yous. However, if you want to make that process more automated, you can use data management and triggers to be able to add new recurring payment instructions that have been added, or to thank them. So as soon as we've got an example here, there is another YouTube video on triggers, just to say, which goes into this in a bit more detail for how to set them up. But if you did want to use a trigger to thank them as soon as they set up their RPI, then that could, for example, set up a MailChimp automation sequence. So it could send them a series of emails after 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, however often you want those to go out. And then as soon as somebody sets up a regular donor, they then go through that automated journey of communication with you. Okay, so let's go through some examples now. So the first one is the easy one, which is Go Cardless and Stripe. So what do you need to set that up? So first of all, you will need a Donorfy form or web widget, and I'll show you some examples in a moment. And you also need an account with Go Cardless and Stripe as well if you want to use Go Cardless is for direct debits and Stripe is for card payments. Then you can create Donorfy forms. Again, there's another YouTube video if you want to go into some of this in a little bit more detail, but you can manage the forms here. And we've got an example here of a Donorfy form. They can all be branded to your own branding, your own colours and fonts, and then they can either be as a standalone page or embedded into your website. So a monthly donation, they could then set up either as the monthly direct debit, which will go through Go Cardless, or the monthly card payment, which will go through Stripe. So once they've submitted this form, that data will all come into Donorfy for you. So it will add the recurring payment instruction to their record for you, and then as those payments start coming through on a regular basis, all of those will be automatically added into the timeline. And then if you're also using the trigger, they're automatically getting thanked as well. So all you'll be needing to do is reporting on it, and also if you want to, you can keep an eye on what's happening. So within financial, you can go into recurring income, and it will show you any recurring income that needs to be resolved by Stripe or Go Cardless. You can also see a full history of all of the updates which have been happening over the past few days, and you can see when payment was successfully billed and added, there might be some examples when something hasn't happened and it will show you error messages. So if I click through to the record, I can then see on their timeline a list of errors for why that might have happened. Just to say that the payments will only try a couple of times before it actually cancels the RPI, because there might be something that's happening with their account which means it's not able to be taken. If you're ever unsure about why a certain error message is occurring, the best person to speak to is Stripe and Go Cardless directly. We just get the copy of what the error message is, but they'll be able to tell you in more detail why a payment has been taken. So you can use that then to get in touch with the supporter and see what's happening. Okay, so that was Stripe and Go Cardless. The next bit I want to go through is standing orders. So there's a couple of ways that you might notice standing orders come into your account. Either you've actually been notified that the standing order's been set up, or you might notice that a certain amount is coming into your account on a regular basis. So what we want to do is make sure that that RPI gets added to Donorfy. So we can either add that RPI manually, as we did initially at the beginning, or we can upload them as well. So one thing that's really important whenever you add a recurring payment instruction that you want to reconcile is to add the reference. So every collection method will have its own series of fields for you to add references to. But this is really important because it helps Donorfy to know that when the payments actually come in, that they're connected to this recurring payment instruction. So this reference number should be something which is consistently given to you by your bank. So when they send the standing order, there should be a consistent reference from them that you can then use to add to the RPI. So when if you're uploading them, there is a reference field where you can put that in, and with all the additional details if you're adding a few. So as soon as we've added that, again, we want to thank them using the acknowledgements or the triggers. And then it comes to reconciling it. So as I mentioned earlier, we need to use the EFT feature and then create a batch. We always recommend you creating the batch on the first of the month or at the beginning of the month as soon as you can, to show the expected funds that are due to come in that month. You'll then find the batch and reconcile it, and then you can post the batch. And finally acknowledge the payment when it comes through. So we'll go through that process now. So to find EFT, which stands for Expected Funds Transfer, is under Financial. Again, this is only something available on the professional version of Donorfy. So when you go into here, you will create the batch. So I'm looking for a batch which is going to be collected by standing order during February from the 1st to the 28th. Actually, let's go with March. From the 1st to the 31st. So I can preview that batch and it will show me that I've got 14 transactions which are ready to be created. So I can create that batch now. So Donorfy is now going away looking to see, okay, where are all those RPIs on everybody's records, the standing orders that are due to be created, due to be collected in March. So Donorfy is going off and doing that work for you. And then shortly that batch will appear in the standing order file. So it will show you all of the standing orders which are due to be collected in March. It's not quite ready yet, so what I will do is go on to my February batch that I had in true Blue Peter style, ready, prepared earlier for you. So there's a couple of ways that I can then reconcile these payments, and it partly depends on how you prefer to do it, but also could depend on how many transactions that you've got as well. So first of all, Donorfy has told me all of the transactions that are due to come in each month. So I can then have my bank statement in one hand and mouse in the other and mark these as paid or not paid. However, if you've got quite a few of these, or actually you just prefer to use a file, then you can use a file upload to be able to do that. We have a template for this, and the easiest thing to do is to go to the help function and type in reconciling bank statements, I did it earlier again, reconciling bank statements to an EFT batch. If you click on that, it will give you a template that you're able to download, and then you can transfer your data from your bank statements to be able to match it. So this is just a file template that you can use on a regular basis to be able to do that. So I've got my file which is ready to go, full of my standing orders that have come in this month. So I'm going to collect my standing orders. It will then, and click the match transaction button, and you can see the ones that have been marked as paid. So this is where this reference number is really important, as well as the collection day and the amount. Donorfy will also look for the reference number, and where reference numbers aren't there, it will struggle to match it to the existing payment. So for example, if three people here are paying on the same day at the same amount, Donorfy is not going to know which one that payment's for. So the reference number will help Donorfy to know what's happening. If there's any problems, we can download that file to view the details of what's been matched and what hasn't. So Donorfy will show you within that file why something hasn't been matched. So why have these not been marked as unpaid? So I can use that file to go back and see what's not been paid. It might just be that it's a certain time of the month and I've not quite got to the stage in the month yet where all of those payments have come through. So in the meantime, I can still post that batch. So this is a really important thing not to forget, is to always post your batch as soon as you've got those standing orders in here. So if I post that batch now, what that will do is all of those transactions that were marked as paid will go directly onto their timeline and be linked to that RPI as well. And if I relook at that, it will show me the unpaid ones as well. So I can come back later in the month, create another batch, upload my file, or mark them as paid and not paid, the rest of them, and then post the batch again. Each of the batches will also show you the total amounts, how much has been paid or not paid, and how many are in each of your batches as well. So you can just see a total of what's happening with your batches here. Okay, and finally you just need to acknowledge the payment as well. So they will then appear in the acknowledgements queue, so you'll be able to come in and use the acknowledgements queue to thank people as they go out as well. Okay, so that was standing orders. We're going to move on to CAF now. So to be able to add a new direct debit through CAF, there are a couple of options. So as soon as we spot a new CAF direct debit has been created, I can either add a recurring payment instruction manually, or I can use the file uploader or field mappings template to upload new direct debits. So that will be under data management and file upload. So I can either use the data preparation template, which is a really handy tool if you've never used it, because it has all of the fields that Donorfy needs to be able to import data, and there is a recurring payment instructions tab that you can use to upload recurring payment instructions on a regular basis. The other option is to take your file from CAF. You can have previously saved field mappings, and it could be that they're donations, but in this case it's recurring payment instructions. So these will be all your files, your fields, in your CAF file that you've downloaded, and then these are your Donorfy fields on the right hand side. So you can map those in. You can also save those field mappings for next time, so you don't have to match those every time. And then when you upload those, all those recurring payment instructions are going to be added to the database for you. But as I said, you can do it manually if you want to as well. Again, as soon as they get uploaded, you can thank them using an acknowledgement or a trigger. So the acknowledgements will appear here in the acknowledgements queue, and the triggers could be automatically sending messages via MailChimp for you, or other means if you want to. So now we want to reconcile the CAF payment. So what we will do is head over to the EFT section of Donorfy. We'll create a batch that will be collected by CAF direct debit, and we're looking for ones that were being collected in February. So if I preview the batch, we've got 3 people who have a CAF direct debit, and it's for £45. So I can create this batch here, and as soon as that one is ready, I'll be able to go into the batch transactions to be able to see that CAF direct debit collection that's ready to go. So we've got three CAF payments here. You can either mark them as paid or not paid using your CAF file, so see which ones have come in, but you can also upload the transactions. So again, you can search for reconciling bank statements to an EFT batch, which will give you a template to be able to upload those transactions into Donorfy. So that template can then be used. So if I take the CAF file here that I prepared earlier, then I can match those transactions using the CAF file, and it will find the ones. So all of mine were in there, which is fantastic. But if they weren't, it would show that it was paid. I'd then be able to download the file to see the CAF transactions and see why they haven't been paid. So you can then use Donorfy to see what's been paid and what hasn't. Remember just to post the batch as soon as that's done. Just to mention for Give As You Earn, if you do use Give As You Earn, it might be that depending on how you want to report on the data, it might be that you include the Give As You Earn data in your recurring, just under one recurring payment instruction. So it might be that you just say CAF and that includes your direct debits and Give As You Earn, or it might be that you have them as separate payments that come through as RPIs. It depends on how you want to report on things essentially, but just think about when you're setting up your collection methods and if you are using Give As You Earn, whether you want to have a separate one for your CAF direct debits and also for your Give As You Earn as well. We're going to talk about other recurring payments. So if, for example, you use your bank or another way of processing direct debits other than Stripe or Go Cardless or some of the others as well, then we can then use Donorfy to post payment files and also lodgement and cancellation files as well. So if you are still going through your bank to process direct debits, I can then go into, again, EFT. So the EFT, the expected funds transfers, these are all the expected funds that we are due to collect. So if I was using my bank or another direct debit provider, I needed to send them details every month of the direct debits that are due to be collected, then I can use this batch to be able to preview it. So I'm going to preview this batch. It will show me all of the transactions, how much value is being, the total value of all the RPIs. I can create that batch. And when it's ready, it will then be available to download here as a file for you to then send off to your bank and process those direct debits to be able to take those payments. If you have new direct debits set up, you can also create lodgement files to show new direct debits as well, once they need to be lodged. And if any, you would cancel them on the record first and then choose the cancellation file. So again, I want to create a cancellation file for my ABC direct debit provider, and it will show you all of the ones that have been cancelled. So you can essentially have all the files that you need to be able to process those direct debits through other providers. Then when the direct debit's created, you can add an RPI manually to the person's record. So I can add a RPI here, which is taken through my ABC direct debits provider. The collection day, there might be a little bit more information that you want to store, for example the sort code and account number and account name that you might need compared to other collection methods where you don't need to store that information within Donorfy, but it will just allow you to keep all those that data on there as well. This will be the reference number which is the recurring payment instruction reference number from Donorfy, which will then get sent out to the bank provider as well. For these, it will tend to be that the default setting for them is to be lodged. So it's not an active RPI yet because you actually need to go and lodge it with the bank first. So just to mention that can be a default setting. Then you'll go and thank them using the acknowledgements part of Donorfy. So under financial acknowledgements, it will show you any new recurring payment instructions that have been set up, and you'll be able to come here to thank them, or you can use triggers to send out automated sequences to them. Then once the direct debits have been received, we'll head over to EFT to create the batch. So if I go to EFT, I can then create a batch that will be created by ABC. I can go to batch transaction to then find those. So this is the file that I've sent over, and then I can come back and say whether they've been collected or not, and mark them as paid or not paid. Or I can use a file to upload those transactions using the Donorfy template, which you can find in the help part of Donorfy here, to upload those direct debits. It will mark them as paid or not paid, and then you just need to remember to post the batch when you're done. In terms of configuring your RPIs, so if, for example, you are you're creating a new RPI and you realize that actually you are using another collection method that isn't on your existing list of collection methods here. So as standard, we will give you the Go Cardless, Standing Order and Stripe ones, which you can't change because they're part of the integrations. But if you have different ones, then you can add them here using the collection methods. So to do that, we'll head over to the settings part of Donorfy, type in collection methods at the top, and you can add a new collection method. So you can say what it's for. So if it was a CAF, if you decided to do CAF give as you earn as a separate collection method, you can have the account number. The default status will tend to be active because CAF will process the direct debit for you, but if you're processing it yourself, the default status will be to be lodged, and you can say how many days is required. So if it's 4 days between lodgement and when you can actually take it, you can mark that there. You'll also link it to your payment method. You can then add a reference field. So in the give as you earn example, then you can just add that in there. That will just allow you to add that in there. So that will be all you need to do if it's something that's been managed by another provider. These bits will need to be filled in if you are actually processing the direct debit via your bank. So we've got an example here. We've added the sort code, account number, account name as references that we can use when we create the direct debit. It's gone to, the default status is always to be lodged whenever we add a new one. Then we can say what we want in our payment file. So what do you need for your bank to be able to give them that file? So whether it's a comma or a tab. You can then choose the fields that you want to include, and they will all appear in here. Again, similarly, you can create those lodgement files, so the templates that are going to be downloaded and the cancellation files. So it's just to make sure that you get the data that you need from Donorfy. So all of that can be done under settings, configuration, and type in collection methods. But as I said earlier, if you are using Stripe and Go Cardless and making the most of the integrations, you probably won't be needing to use this section at all. but just to let you know how to do that if you do need to. Okay. Want to go on to reporting on your RPIs now, and there's a number of different places that you can do this. So there is lists, which is obviously Donorfy's main reporting feature. So the lists that you will probably be interested in as part of recurring payment instructions are the recurring payment instruction lists, but also transaction payments as well, so you can see when those payments come in. So I can look for my active individual members. So these are people who have a standing order set up, for example, and it will show me a list of all these recurring payments. I can see their collection method, how much it's for. Can also change those if I want to see different things, so like the collection day, for example, I can see when that comes out. So you can see a full list of everybody who has an active recurring payment instruction at the moment. You can then download that data if you want to. You can tag them. You can either do that in bulk from here, but you could also set that up as an auto tag. So if I wanted to add a tag to say that they had an active RPI or they were a member, I can do that. But to make it automated, you just go to configuration, tags. I can then find the tag that I'm looking for. So it would say under engagement, it might be their member, for example. So this is my member tag, and then auto tag rules are that they are in my member list. So the active, the recurring payment instruction lists, I can then add that auto tag overnight and also remove that tag from constituents before reapplying, so you're only getting it with your current people. So that's a really quick way to be able to set up tags for people to show who your regular donors are, using the fact that they have a recurring payment instruction. So use list to classify what they're looking for, and then the settings to set up that auto tag so it goes on for you automatically. You can also build campaigns, use campaigns, to report on your RPIs. So with all the campaigns, you're able to, if I click onto here, there's a few different places. So I can see new recurring payments that have been set up. I can also then see on the timeline if there is recurring payment instructions that have been set up. So those ones that were mentioned in the analytics tab, I can come into here to see where they're up to and when they got set up and everything like that. Dashboards. So on the dashboard on the home page, you can add tiles to track your recurring payment instructions if you want to. So you can add tiles to this if you want to as well. Finally, I just want to talk about the OData feed, because you can also link Donorfy out to data visualization tools such as Power BI, Tableau, but even Excel. I want to just share an example that one of our Donorfy partners, DonorCare, created, which is an example of a Power BI report that they created for one of their clients. So if I just maximize this a second, I can then look for the regular giving dashboard, which will show me all of my existing RPIs. You can then toggle by fund, toggle by product, and just see all of just some instant statistics about that. So you can use Donorfy and link it out to other tools to be able to create some more visual dashboards if you want to, and will also allow you to pull data in various different ways. So just to let you know that that is also available. Finally, just want to talk through some tips and frequently asked questions from Donorfy support. So one thing we would say when reconciling your payments is to create batches on each month on the 1st, or as soon as you can at the beginning of the month. And post those as soon as they come in. You can always post later as well, but it just means that you're thanking people as soon as possible as you're doing the reconciliation. Think about how you can automate your processes. as much as possible, at least going forward. So obviously there might be some existing processes that you've got set up that you want to keep, but if there are ways that you can automate it through the integrations with Stripe and GoCardless, then just have a think about that. Only use recurring payment instructions for going forward, and then you can add past details as transactions onto the timeline. So RPI should really be used as soon as they're set up on a donor record, rather than as a history as well. There's something coming soon in Donorfy, so any transactions linked to an RPI will be shown on the timeline history. You are able to see the transactions that are coming through in Donorfy as they come through, but it will also show against the RPI as well. If you need any more help, we'd really recommend going to the Donorfy Support Centre, which can be accessed via your Donorfy account in here, but you can also get to it through our website as well if you need to search for articles. You can also raise a ticket with our team as well, so please do get in touch if you're having any problems. And finally, we've got our Donorfy chat as well, so if you're not a part of that, just search for Donorfy chat, which is our community of users on Facebook. It's really active, and we love you all to post questions on there and also answer each other's as well. So do please join that one if you haven't done so already. Thanks for listening to this deep dive today. Hope that you have enjoyed it, and do let us know if you've got any further questions.